one of the most challenging things on a fatigue recovery journey is relapse or having a crash. It can be devastating, demoralizing, super frustrating. In this video, I'm going to share my top 5 tips of what to do if you have a crash. So a crash or a relapse is where we've been making some good progress, like we've been moving forwards, and then we have a significant sustained dip. It can sometimes feel like it comes out of nowhere, like we're going along as we are, and then we crash. Other times we can gradually find ourselves getting weaker and weaker and going into that crash. Now, I want to say that on my own fatigue recovery journey, this was one of the most frustrating things. It's also, in a way, it's very anxiety inducing because when it's happened a few times, you find yourself constantly fearful that you're going to do too much and it's going to happen again. So the first thing that I want to say, that if you're watching this video, perhaps because you're in the process of having had a crash or a relapse, the first thing is you've got to take the pressure off. It's going to take some time. And I know that's hard to hear, particularly if it feels like you've been making progress and it feels like that progress has been temporarily taken away. But the worst thing that you can do in response to a crash or a relapse is to just try and push your way through it. Almost inevitably, when we do that, we end up pushing ourselves deeper into it. So we need to take some time. We need to take the pressure off. We need to take some space. And you need to go gently with yourself. Even if that means that in the short term, there's all kinds of difficult feelings. Maybe there's anger, there's frustration, there's disillusionment. Let the feelings be there, but take some space. Number 2, you need to get some support. That may be practical help and support, help with food prep or help with kind of practical day-to-day things in your life. It may also be emotional support of having people that you can talk to about just about the frustration of what's happening. That's where support, particularly online support communities with other people on healing journeys, can be really helpful. Hopefully there's some friends or family around you that can understand some of what's happening. But relapses and crashes can be very isolating. We can feel like that we've gone from having more connection to feeling like we're on our own again. So actively asking for help is important. Number 3, this is a hard one to hear. We need to rebalance our life based upon where we are now. Now, of course, there are different types of relapses and crashes. There are some that they only last a few days or a week or two and then we bounce back. There are others that perhaps are a bit deeper and they take some longer time to come out of. But having worked with so many thousands of people over the years, one of the patterns I've seen that really doesn't help is if someone's trajectory was here, then they've crashed down to here and they're trying to force their way back to where they were. There's like a denial of what's happening. The quicker that we rebalance our life, the quicker that we adapt to at least what your current capacity is, that even if that's temporarily much lower, you want to be building more energy than you're spending each day. So the quicker that rebalance happens, actually, the faster one comes out of the crash. If you try to push your way out, you'll push your way deeper in. If you take the space and you take the rest, you're giving the best possibility for your system to build back its strength. Number 4, and the timing of this one, by the way, is important. We need to decode what happened. One of the things that's most anxiety-inducing with relapse is the not knowing what happened, why it happened, is it going to happen again, should we rest, should we push through? If we can figure out what happened, so for example, maybe what you realize is that you were gradually getting stronger, but you were quite carefully pacing your activity. And then you stopped listening to your body, you just pushed through, and you can see you try to do too much too quickly. That's helpful clarity. Or maybe you're doing some kind of detox program and you started going too hard and too fast, and your system was reacting and you pushed through, and that's why your system went into a crash. Whatever the reason is, if you can decode it, if you can figure it out, of course, as you start to move forwards again, you can make sure you don't repeat, and therefore in a way that takes some of the anxiety away. Even though you don't want to be where you are, you understand why you're there, and most importantly, you know how to avoid it happening next time in the future. But the timing of this decoding what happens is important. If you try and do it immediately you go into the crash, a lot of energy goes into that. Physically you're depleted. Actually it just becomes an anxiety pattern driving up your nervous system. So the decoding often is best placed once we're starting to feel a bit stronger again, or at least once we've bottomed out. Then we can take some time and some space. If you're working with, for example, our practitioner team, we'll have some thoughts, so please do, of course, be talking to us about what's happened. We can figure it out, and then here's the gift. That's a strange thing to say of relapse. Often, the next leaps forward are fueled by the understanding that came from the crashes before. If we understand what made things worse, we can avoid it in the future, but it's often clues as to what we need more of. So as we decode, that information becomes empowering. Step 5, we go again. Once the relapse has passed, we've decoded, we figured out what happened, then as you come back into that building up phase, you do it with the insights, with the discoveries that come from the relapse. But we need to be careful. As I mentioned, one of the things that happens is the not knowing what happened, why it happened, should we push, should we rest, can mean that we start to get more and more anxiety about doing any kind of activity because of the relapses that we've experienced. Once you've decoded and learnt what you need to not let that anxiety of what happened become your default place that you're in. The anxiety is there to protect us, but that's why the learning and the decoding is so important, because now you know that you don't need to live in a state of anxiety to protect you from crashing in the future. And if that anxiety is there, you need to learn the tools to regulate your system and to calm that. So to summarize, take some time. Go gently initially. Number 2, get some support. Number 3, you've got to adjust. You've got to rebalance to where you are. Number 4, decode what happened. And then number 5, go again. You start building your recovery on the learnings from what's come before. So if you're struggling with having had a crash or a relapse and you'd like to find out more about how the Optimum Health Clinic approach could map, decode where you are and explore how we could help you in moving forwards, the best way to find out more is to book a free discovery call. I'll ask you a bunch of questions. We want to understand what's happening. Then we'll answer your questions and make our recommendation, if we think we can help, of how that might work. So you can find a link to book a discovery call in the description below this video. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you for watching.